All right, good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Clarke here, and I'm going to show you how to turn a simple box in one-point perspective into, a more natural object, some luggage, okay? So I've got my box here. I've already put it into perspective. Again, some key points here. You have to make sure that these lines here and here are parallel to the lines on the back side. So if this is over here, this has got to be parallel, or else it's not going to look right. All right, so just be careful with that. Now, the first thing you want to do with any object that you're drawing, you got to find a reference photo. Okay, so over to my left, I've got a nice reference photo of the kind of luggage that I want to draw. I'm gonna do a modern rolly piece of luggage with a hard case that kind of bends out, okay? And I'll round these corners and it'll look all nice and fancy. So the first thing I'm gonna do is start to get some of this detail in. For instance, my luggage has like a stripe that goes across and down. All right. Now I'm going to be pressing very light. That way I can erase if I need be. Okay. So if this, and this would be where you'd zip and open the luggage. Okay. So it's going to run all the way down. The important part with this is that these lines adhere to the perspective. So if I take my long ruler, okay, and I could be better. Boom, and boom. This is why you do not freehand with perspective, or at least not yet. Okay, so I'm gonna get those right. And then I'm gonna have these lines come down around here. Now, my luggage does not have these hard corners, all right? It's rounded, right? So instead of it changing direction right here really sharply, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this down, all right, in a rounded way, okay? I'm gonna round this corner instead of making it sharp. That is the biggest trick to this, all right? I'm gonna, again, make sure my lines are parallel. And then this, once it hits the bottom, is gonna roll this way. Okay, again, hopefully you can start to see this already. These rounded line here and here, that's what's gonna give us the illusion, okay? I also have to mess with this. I'll show you that later, okay? All right. So I've got this. Now this kind of pushes up a little bit. It's a little, what do you say, tall? Okay, it's got this ledge here. So I'm gonna follow this all the way down. Just getting a small, better eraser with some edges. And I'm gonna always try to erase as you go. It's way easier. Okay. One thing that's kind of difficult to remember when drawing in perspective is every single object has a width to it. Okay. Almost nothing is just one straight line. It's almost always a bunch of lines, okay? So, that's looking nice. I'm gonna erase this line in here. Okay. All right. Now I think it is time to, I could go into more detail. I think I'm gonna round off my corners. Okay, so I'm gonna look at these back corners first. All right, I'm not gonna worry about these, especially this one. That one's gonna be the hardest to do. So instead, all I'm going to do is that I'm literally just going to cut off the corner. Okay, I'm just going to round this corner off. Literally by just making a curved line and cutting off, excuse me, the corner. Okay, I can erase this as I go. Hopefully you're already getting the sense. This could probably be pushed out a little further. No, I like the old line. Right. You're gonna find yourself doing that a lot, asking yourself, is that right? And then editing it. Right. It's part of the process. You should be doing that. All right. So now you can clearly see this half, especially if I cover this up, looks very rounded. The side does not, okay? All right. So when I'm approaching these corners, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna round off this edge back here on the front of the box. And then I'll address this back edge. Here, let's get rid of that. Okay, now I don't need to do much here, okay, because, well, really you're not, if this is rounded and there's not a lot of value going on, you're not going to be able to see this as a corner, okay. Really the only way you see things as a corner if they're hard lines, and this is a box in the round. Everything is rounded, okay, so there's not going to be such heavy lines here. This is going to be more like this. Just round this off. Get rid of those corners. Okay. All right, next let's address the bottom. And again, you don't need to do much. You just need to cut off these corners here. As you can see, or maybe you can't, it's really, really small. Okay. All I'm going to do is get rid of that tiny little corner there, and it looks far more rounded, right? A little bit goes a long way, okay? So got this guy, do the same thing over here. I'm going to just cut this off. That looks good to me. Okay. And then last bit there, or here rather, I'm gonna cut this off there. I'm gonna pull this edge to my new corner. Boom. I've got a really nice rounded, hard looking case, okay? Now, in my reference photo, this edge here is not straight up and down. It's actually bulging out a little bit. It's curved, okay? So that is the next thing I'm gonna address. I'm gonna bulge this out so you can see how to change this side and keep it in perspective, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw what this side will look like, right? Just like how we start with a square and then make it 3D, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to adjust this line. So this line kind of, moving the paper, bulges out, not by a lot, and comes right back in. Okay, if I like that line, I'm going to erase my original. Therefore, I don't make my drawing confusing. All right, next, should probably, I want to start this line right here, the top of this line. I want to start it on the other side, right, on the back side, and I want to make sure I start it where it should start in perspective, so about right there. And just like this back line here needed to be parallel, this is going to do the same thing. It needs to curve at the same angle. That's probably a bit too much. All right. Notice how I don't erase my lines until I feel like I have the right one. Okay. All right. The reason I do that is because when you erase, you tend to just repeat the lines you've already made. Yeah, that actually looks pretty solid. Okay, so I want to readjust my corners here. So this is going to do this. Ooh, that looks better. This is going to do this. Oh. Actually, I feel like this comes out at a stronger angle. Comes right back. All right, so right now, I am having trouble finding where this line bulges out the most. Okay, whenever I have trouble doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spot on this line here that is pushing forward the most, or this way, okay, which is right here, this spot right there. And I'm going to connect that X that I've just made to my vanishing point. And I'm going to make just a line, a very light line that I'll erase towards the other side of my bag. This line right here, this point here, lets me know where this back line should be pushed out the most. Once I hit this X, my line should be coming back towards the bottom of my bag. Okay, so this should help me now that I'm figuring out okay, actually that looks pretty solid. I'm going to erase these lines so they look thin and delicate. But don't worry, once I'm done, I'll trace everything in pen so you can see more clearly what the end result should look like. Get rid of these X's here. There's a lot of back and forth with this kind of drawing, especially when you're being precise. Okay, that's looking good. All right, now this thing looks like it's bulging out pretty good. Now, let's give it some feet. Because I'm in perspective, I can start my feet as tiny little boxes. Okay, I can start them as just little squares. And I can put them in perspective. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. Okay, I've got my perspective wheels. Now the side, you can barely see, but this is going to be where the side of the wheel happens. I'm just going to make a little circle, all right? And the top of the circle, here, this would probably be easier if I did this larger first. So let's do that. Let's make a little square so you can see what I'm talking about here. The idea with this is you can fit literally any size, any shape object in a box. As long as the object fits inside of that box, it will look like it's in perspective. All right, now you're not going to see the top of my wheels on my actual luggage case. That's okay, I'll show you the top anyway. All right, that's good.